Time for an episode? Do we? I mean, do we need to do 2 questions and then?
Yeah, I think
Kinda-
we're just in and out, I guess. Yeah, we'll in and out. This
Okay.
guy's got to wake up at like 6 a.m. So
Yeah. Oh, you do, don't you?
Yeah.
From fabulous Las Vegas, this is Pod Therapy. Send your questions to us. That's Jim. I'm Nick. Let's go.
PodTherapyGuys at gmail.com.
Gmail.com.
2 hours of in-depth conversation about religion and philosophy and
That you
history.
honestly probably don't want to listen to.
You know what, though? I'm
It's
proud
full
of
of
us.
yuck-yucks.
It's full of yuck-yucks. It's the most serious conversation the three of us have ever had because it's about something that's serious and intimate to everybody in different ways. You know, religion has impacted all 3 of our lives. Even if I still kind of loosely associate with it as a concept, it has shaped all 3 of our lives. If only because we're born in America, period.
Mm-hmm.
Like that would immediately be intrinsic. But then our each individual human stories are very influenced. And then I think if there's one neat thing that came out of that, I think for the first time in a long time, organic tension built between the 3 of us. Well, you 2 and me. Let's be honest. You know, I'm the edge of the triangle. That's fine. But friendship prevailed. Honest intellectual curiosity prevailed. An actual desire to get it and understand the other person. Usually those fights, it wasn't a fight. Usually those discussions turn into, here's what you're really saying. And when the other person goes, that isn't what I meant to say or what I'm trying to say. Nope, that's what you said. And that changes the discussion very fast and people don't go anywhere with it, right? Ours never went that way. Ours, here's what I think I hear you saying. And the other person had the opportunity to go, okay, I don't want to come off that way. Let me try another way to say it. And then the other person, the listener, would give permission to receive that again and go, okay, try again. Great. Here's what I'm trying to say. Great. And I think we came full circle to a place that everybody kind of nodded at it and went, yeah, fine. Nobody persuaded anybody of anything. Nobody was trying to, I don't think.
No.
I think it was clarifying, which ultimately was good. So maybe we illustrated how to have deep religious conversations in meaningful ways, even if it doesn't go anywhere.
And if you want to listen to it, go listen to it.
Patreon.com.
Nah.
Patreon.com/therapy.
You won't laugh.
No.
I guarantee.
For I think a lot of people, it's going to be 2 hours of tension. I think they're just going to sit there going, what is happening? Why aren't they talking about movies?
That's over which one of us is going to quit the show.
I think it's Jacob. I think he just throws us out at this point. All right, we got some good questions anyway. Fear of hereditary schizophrenia from Anonymous. Hey guys, I recently learned that my biological dad was a paranoid schizophrenic. This is, I know, hereditary, and I was really gutted to have only just been told, as I am in my late 20s and have struggled with my mental health for my entire life, and this felt like important information for me, my doctor, and my therapist. I've been diagnosed with GAD, which is generalized anxiety disorder, panic disorder, and OCD, which is obsessive compulsive disorder. I'm finding I'm a bit worried because schizophrenia tends to appear much later in women than in men, and the average period it can appear tends to be late 20s to early 30s, so it could still appear for me. Is this a possibility for me, or is it likely I won't? Is there anywhere to know? Very vague question, but it's been stuck in my mind since I found out. Thanks, guys. Love the show. Anonymous.
Okay. So.
No.
There you go.
You're good.
Moving on.
Next question.
Okay, yes, there's a genetic link, okay, but it's hard to say like cause and effect. We know that you're more likely to develop schizophrenia if you had a biological parent that had it. Okay?
Right.
But overall, and I don't have the DSM in front of me, but the overall prevalence of it is still pretty rare. Like it's not very high.
No, yeah.
Even if you have that parent? Is that what you're saying?
It's higher, but it's still not. But again, like now I'm kind of talking on my ass
it's
because
like
I don't
being
really.
predisposed.
Yeah.
It's like if we said, hey, you know, you're predisposed to lung cancer, don't smoke. Like,
Right.
yeah, that doesn't mean you're going to get lung cancer. Just it has a higher percentage in people that are in your lineage than not.
So help me try to understand this. If just your average person who has no family members with schizophrenia, by the way, side note, I hate that I see lots of ads now for schizophrenia drugs on television. That is horrific to me.
Yeah.
But
Only country you can do that, by the way.
I think there's one other.
It's probably like Nambia or something.
No,
I was
it's
gonna say Iran
it's
or
a
something
surprising
like
one.
that.
Yeah.
I'll look it up in a minute. But I think there's
like
another.
Wales.
I think there's another country where you can advertise prescription drugs to just people, and it's a weird one.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so average person that has no schizophrenia in their immediate bloodline, let's say that they have a 1% chance. None of these numbers are correct.
Right.
But let's say that they have a 1% chance of developing schizophrenia. What would the chance be of someone who does have that in their bloodline?
Bigger than
or do you have any idea?
I don't know the number. It's bigger
Okay.
than 1. I mean, the DSM-5-TR
I mean, is it
lays it out. It says prevalence rates.
Yeah,
And it says there's a genetic link. I don't know if
Shit,
it
I wish I-
parses that out. I don't think
Okay.
we would have to find a
It
study
doesn't
on that.
simplify it
Yeah.
that much.
I don't
No.
think it'll parse out
No,
between genetics and non.
No,
Okay.
no, it's overall
Just
prevalence.
as overall prevalence.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, to the writer on this one, a couple of things. First, so I want to be careful not to. This is a tough one because you're kind of asking a diagnostic question, and I want to be careful not to answer it too directly because I just don't know. But I'll tell you this.
New Zealand, by the way.
Yeah, of all the places.
I told you,
New
it was
Zealand
surprising.
And America.
Yeah.
Why New Zealand?
I
Like,
know, it's surprising,
they're
right?
really good about other things. So one thing about this, when it says it can appear in a certain age range, I want to argue, I don't know at least anecdotally, so I'll speak just in my own experience. I have not seen it where somebody is completely asymptomatic their whole life, and then pow, at 28 years old, this woman just has all the entire suite of symptoms in schizophrenia. No, I usually see the onset of some symptoms, even if it's flat affect or early symptoms, throughout their life, especially in puberty. I may not see the full severe symptoms that are going to land me at a full diagnosis of schizophrenia until a later date, but that doesn't mean that they were completely symptom-free. It just means they didn't have the requisite symptoms to land on the entire diagnosis of schizophrenia that whole time. So again, that's anecdotal. I'm not trying to quote the literature at you. That's what I've seen. I hope that brings you a little bit of peace, because if you don't have any kind of history that is notable at all, then I don't think that's going to be a thing. GAD and OCD are not necessarily associated symptoms or even constellation symptoms that would have much to do with anything that I would be looking for in schizophrenia. So I don't necessarily think so. If it's something that you're worried about, then the number one thing you're going to do is you're going to get with a psychiatrist. And even a typical therapist is going to be able to monitor for symptoms and then make a referral if and when you need one.
Well, the writer's already seeing somebody.
Yeah.
Right. So
That's
for the
number one thing you can do.
So
I don't believe there's a genetic test for it. I don't believe there's a neurological test for it. Just being in care and checking on symptoms occasionally, I think, is all you're going to need to do. But writer, just real quick, because I get it. I get that it's scary. I get that it's something you're thinking about and you're worried about. You already pointed out that you have anxiety. And so, like, I just want to acknowledge, like, yeah, that's part of this too, right? And so, like, you're going to spin your wheels because of the anxiousness, thinking, oh no, what if I have schizophrenia? You don't. More than likely you don't. And I think your team would have already noticed it. I don't think it just falls out of the sky like a piano. Usually there's, kind of obvious factors that just develop over time. None of the factors you have so far even tell me anything. Again, we don't diagnose in the show. It's just educational. We're not offering clinical opinions. I'm just opining about my own anecdotal experiences that I tended to have noticed symptoms earlier in their lives. And then eventually all the symptoms occurred together. But it was notes of a song that were being added over time. But if you're with your clinicians, you're good. And the other thing I want to remind you is this. I've had lots of patients over the years that have had schizophrenia. It is a very treatable thing. And I've had tons of them that just take medicines for this. It is very well managed. With the proper medicine in their system, they are recalibrated. They live perfectly functional lives, perfectly functional careers. You would never even know that this is something they had. And if you go back in our archives, we had a guest on the show share his story. It was your friend from hockey.
Yeah.
What was his
Brandon.
name? Brandon.
Yeah.
And so if you go back in our archives, I have no idea where it is. But if you just type in schizophrenia, it's probably how we labeled the episode. He tells his story of being unmedicated versus being medicated. It was night and day difference for this guy. And he perfectly eloquent, perfectly living a great life on his medications, well managed. He's got it figured out now. Mm-hmm. Use that story to give you strength and hope, because this is not some kind of terrible sentence. We have modern medicine, modern techniques. This is treatable, even if it does occur. But as long as you're under care, I think you're right where you need to be. If anything does occur, you're going to catch it early and you guys are going to respond promptly.
The best thing you could do is the thing that you're already doing.
Yes, that's all that matters.
Yep.
We are going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about feeling my feelings. Yep. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
Today's episode is brought to you by Robert Brownie Jr., Mint, Kayla Lansbury, Crazy Banana Scoop, Malia, Cindy Ash, Adam Hathaway, Mike Helm, Lib, and Darren Cunningham. And if you'd like to sponsor the show, go to patreon.com/therapy and sign up to become a producer. We are on our last set of questions from Ben Stanley. We've milked this for a long time.
That lasted a lot longer than it should.
All right. Legos have recently released a new set which depicts a famous painting by which artist? Mandarin, probably.
I think it's Mandarin.
Probably not Mandarin.
I'm pretty sure it's Mandarin.
Yeah. Final answer.
Escher, Van Gogh, or Munch? God damn it. Ben, why did you have to do this? Because you know I can't pronounce
Munch?
any.
You think it's Munch?
I think it's Munch.
Okay.
Yeah.
If it's Escher,
You think it's the detective from Law and Order?
Yes.
Wouldn't it be badass if Lego created an Escher set that's like impossible staircases and shit?
Yeah.
Like Paradox? Isn't that what Escher did?
I think so. I
I
think
think he created like paintings that had impossible architecture.
So yeah.
I'm going with Escher. That just
All
sounds
right.
fun.
I'm going
I'm
with
going
Van Gogh.
I'm going Van Gogh.
It's probably Van Gogh.
I know it's Van Gogh.
Shit.
Oh, you do know it's Van
I know
Gogh.
it's
Because he
Van
just bought Legos.
Hold on.
It's Starry Night.
Damn it.
And that's exactly what I was thinking too. Is it's probably Starry
it is
Night.
gonna
It is
be
Starry
Starry
Night.
Night.
I can show you a picture of it if you
Damn
want.
it.
Yeah, Starry
It's a pretty
Night.
good set.
Escher.
Cost around $200.
It was Starry Night? Or
Yeah.
it was
It's Starry Night.
No, Starry Night.
$200 again. These people, they're just robbers. That's all they do. The Escher thing would have been badass, but also would have violated physics. So that probably was my first clue that surrealism was not going to be the answer. Feeling my feelings.
$170.
That's too much
Oh.
money.
There it is.
How many pieces is it? 200?
Oh wow.
I mean, it's pretty impressive.
How many
That's
pieces
cool.
is it?
No, it's definitely more than 200. It is 2,316.
Oh.
Okay, you know what? That's a fair price. And
Yeah.
it's like a work of art. So, okay.
So let's see. Hold on.
The first time Legos had a fair price on anything. Don't at me, Lego. Also sponsor the show. Give us some of your mountains of money. We'll turn
Right.
it into mental health. Feeling my feelings. Hello there to
It's
the
a
most.
little over 13 cents a piece.
That's okay.
13
Wasn't that the average?
11.
11,
yeah.
11 something is
So
about the
it's
average.
high?
It's a little higher than average.
Wow. Okay. Feeling my feelings. Hello there to the most ridiculous podcasting humans I've ever heard. Fair. Thank you so much for this podcast. It has made me feel less alone in some of the mental health struggles I face. For my question, I'm in regular therapy and also spend a fair amount of time listening to and reading self-help style material. A common thing I've come across is the idea that you need to feel your feelings or make space to feel, etc. What does that mean? I don't understand this concept. For example, the other day, I was incredibly frustrated with myself. Should I just sit down on the couch and think about how frustrated I am? This seems counterproductive. Please help me decipher this idea. Anonymous.
I don't like it. I at least
Okay.
don't like Anonymous's interpretation of this idea.
Feel your feelings.
But
Suffer.
I have an idea. I have another hypothesis.
All right.
Ooh, these again. Okay.
Two episodes in a row.
Yeah.
Here's my hypothesis. I think what this means, because I've heard this before, but never in like any kind of context that means anything. But I think this kind of talks a little bit or kind of speaks to what we talk about a lot with like mindfulness meditation, which is just kind of instead of trying to provide some kind of meaning behind the feeling, just allowing it. So maybe feel the feeling. I interpret that as more like allow
Right.
the feeling,
Yeah.
as in like don't feel like you have to restrain this or that this is a bad thing or I shouldn't feel this way, because then when you do that, then all you've done is you've given a meaning to the feeling and you've made it more powerful. So if something hits me and I kind of feel sad, feel the feeling, I interpret that as meaning, okay, I'm just going to not be unproductive, but I'm not going to fight it.
You're going to be okay with having the feeling.
Yeah, I'm going to be curious about it. Be like, okay, I'm feeling sad. I'm not saying I shouldn't feel sad or God damn it, I hate feeling sad or something's wrong with me, I'm feeling sad, because that's all attaching a meaning to it. It's being judgmental. So I'm going to take a non-judgmental approach. I acknowledge it. I feel sad. I can be curious about it, what's making me feel sad,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not fighting it. I'm not giving it more power than what it already has.
You're examining it, which is
Yes.
mindfulness. The
Yes.
idea, and I think that's the core. I think
Yeah.
the
I
way you
think
should
that's how
interpret that,
they're interpreting it.
that's
I think
what
that's
I think
what
it
they
means.
mean.
Well, that's what a therapist wants it to mean.
Okay, yeah, that's
Yeah, I think when we're telling you, look, feel your feelings or make space to feel them, we want you to examine and understand your feelings in like an uncritical way. And so that's kind of what mindfulness is. Like, I think we use the metaphor of like being in a room or something and like imagining the feeling walking into the room and like it sits across from you and there it is. And it's there. You don't object to it being in your presence. You just are aware that it's there. And then, it moves on eventually. And okay. And so what we're trying to get you to do in that case is we're trying to get you to like detach from that thing. So when he said like, should I just sit on the couch and feel frustrated? We want you to kind of work the other way with that. We want you to sit down on the couch and say, I am feeling frustrated right now. Frustrated. Yeah, that's the emotion I feel. Not angry, not bitter. I'm frustrated. Why am I frustrated? Oh, I'm frustrated because I got that email that I have to show up 2 hours early to work tomorrow. And I really don't want to do that. And I feel like I'm really taken advantage of and not being respected. Yeah, I'm frustrated with my job. Okay. And so we want you to acknowledge it. And again, we're not trying to make it go away. We're not trying to necessarily eliminate it. We're trying to increase emotional, like, I guess, intelligence.
Yeah.
And then give you some tools to sort of differentiate you from the thing you're feeling. That way you can have space to breathe between you and the emotion. I know it kind of seems ethereal and not, like it all sounds very practical, but mindfulness actually has a lot of value. So that's kind of where I think we're going. I would encourage you to Google that and maybe download some mindfulness exercises that really have better scripts that give you language to kind of imagine how to deal with the emotion. That will probably make more sense about feeling feelings or making space for a feeling. We want you to be welcoming of it, non-critical of it.
Mm-hmm. I think the non-judgmental piece is kind of the big piece. So.
We're crushing it again, dude. 2
Damn.
episodes in a row. We're just stomping on these
It's on
things.
fire.
In and out. I'm glad that we blew 2 hours on the Patreon. That was a great idea. All right, we're going to take another quick break. And when we come back, we're going to discuss helping with self-sabotage. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
All
I
right.
think we're proving our show could actually be done in 30 minutes.
I know. This is not good. This is not good. Today's episode is brought to you by Robert Brownie Jr. Mint, Kayla Lansbury, Crazy Manana Scoop, Malia, Cindy Ash, Adam Hathaway, Mike Helm, Lib, and Darren Cunningham. Would you like to sponsor the show? Become a therapy producer at patreon.com/therapy. The first Legoland opened in Bulland, Denmark in 1968. Where did the second one open? Dubai, the United States, England, or Shanghai? If you'd like to become a therapy producer, go to patreon.com/therapy and sign up.
There's one in Carlsbad.
United States.
Yeah, that feels right. There's definitely one in Carlsbad. But I feel like if you're going Europe 1, I think you go Europe again. Wasn't there one in England?
Yes. Dubai, U.S., England, Shanghai.
Dubai's too recent. Carlsbad would have existed before that. Shanghai, I don't think would have been modernized by that time as much as it is now. I'm going with the England one.
And you're going U.S.?
I'll go U.S.
I'll go Shanghai.
All right.
Hold on. Let me get this.
Waiting.
England.
you go.
Legoland
Wow.
Windsor opened in 1996. California 99. Dubai 2016.
Oh.
Shanghai will open in 2023.
Oh,
Yeah.
there's still no Legoland
So
Shanghai.
out of all the wrong, I was the wrongest.
Yeah, that feels about right.
All right.
If being wrong is wrongest, I don't want to be rightest. Something about racism.
Very
anyway.
well.
Help with self-sabotage from Anonymous. Hi, I'm wondering if you have any tips or thoughts around self-sabotage. I have a lot of ways that I self-sabotage. Binge eating, procrastinating, neglecting chores, not exercising, drugs, rumination, lashing out, etc. I've tried to understand why I do these things, and it feels like I almost get a little thrill out of doing things I'm not supposed to do. It's also satisfying to kind of let things get really bad, and then fix it all at once. For example, while I might let my apartment get super messy, and then clean it all in a day. I also think I have sort of a false expectation that this time will be the last time I do this, and I'll rise from the ashes of my failure and start fresh and clean and do great. Which sort of gives me a license to go super hard, like not working for a full day because I'll just make it up tomorrow and never procrastinate again, but this obviously backfires every time. I am high functioning, so none of these things has a significant impact on my externally visible life, but it really stresses me out to go through this cycle all the time, and I'm really unhappy with many areas of my life. I've been in therapy for a while, and my therapist encourages me to use DBT, which is dialectical behavioral therapy, methods to tolerate distress, accept reality, and also to be more compassionate toward myself and not judge when I go through this. But that backfires a lot, because I'll just twist it to be, it's understandable that I want to binge and continue binging, and I'm still really bad at tolerating distress. It does sometimes help me with harm reduction, but almost never with completely stopping. I also struggle with depression and anxiety, which has been getting better, but it definitely makes it hard to resist temptation. Why do I do this? How can I stop? Thank you, Anonymous.
You can quit comparing yourself to a dirty room.
That would help.
You're more complicated than a room.
And you're not so dirty. Unless you are. Take a shower.
So the first thing that I thought about was a lot of the things as far as procrastination. I noticed this seems to be very common with ADHD, in the sense that like it's kind of that deadline, that approaching deadline that creates that focus to get stuff done. So, but I bring that up first because I'm not convinced that has anything really to do with it. That was just my first thought.
All right.
My second thought.
It's Nick Tangeman with things that it ain't.
Yep.
He's working up to a reveal.
Oh, and I'm not even done. Not even done.
Another thing it's not.
You're going to love the way I don't answer this question. The second thing I was thinking of, sometimes with like self-sabotage, one thing that I've noticed is that sometimes it has to do, and this is just my anecdotal experience with this, has to do with having just kind of an overall negative or pessimistic view on things. And it's not, because I've seen this in a few people, where it's not that they self-sabotage so much as it is because they have a real tendency to focus on the negative, that it just kind of creates or it inhibits action. So they don't take action. And then as a result, things don't happen. So they're not really self-sabotaging in that sense. It's just they're putting themselves in situations where they can't really win because they didn't take action because of an overall negative mindset that kind of inhibits their ability to jump in and do something about it.
Right.
So that was one of the things that I was thinking of too. However, here's my real answer.
Boom.
There's one person who probably has the best take on this out of everybody, which is the therapist you're already working with.
I thought you were going to say Jacob.
And Jacob.
Yeah, it's fine.
We still have time for the jingle, though, don't we?
There's always time for Jell-O. Yes. That is going to be my ringtone one day. Go on. You were saying somebody who doesn't have a jingle has more authority in this person's life.
We don't know that their therapist doesn't have a jingle.
You know what? I retract my previous statement.
You're working with a therapist. I think this is a really good thing to bring up. I mean, this is the negativity, the overall negative mindset was kind of the first thing, but I'm not pulling that out of anything that the person actually wrote.
Right.
Just with anecdotal experience that I've had.
That makes sense. So one thing that stood out in this, you talk about some of the ways that you self-sabotage. You said binge eating, procrastinating, neglecting chores, not exercising, drugs, rumination, and lashing out. So the drugs one hops off the page at me, and I wonder, hey, what's going on with that? And I just want to kind of speak to that. You didn't really go much more in detail to tell us more about it. You did kind of later on sort of reference like, not good at tolerating distress, and we just want to make sure that I'm kind of, taking good care of myself. And I guess I just want to speak to that a little bit because, boy, does that matter. Like in all these other areas of self-sabotage, like, hey, I'm procrastinating, I'm behind the ball, my home is not, very clean, I could take better care of myself. That's, to me, in a different weight class than either self-harm, which I don't think you explicitly said you do, or drugs. I see drugs and alcohol abuse as in a different weight class that might be a breakout thing of a different problem. And so, like, I just want to point that out because you might, you said you're already doing DBT, and I appreciate that. We're learning how to tolerate distress. We're learning how to accept reality, be compassionate, practicing mindfulness. This is all excellent. But if we are also simultaneously and regularly abusing drugs to the point where you don't feel like you have self-control, which is kind of something you alluded to a lot in your letter, I just want to highlight that because that really could be something a little bit different than just mere self-sabotage or mere procrastination or lack of personal control. That can quickly become something where we're self-medicating and we're doing damage and we're becoming, habituated to it or even addicted to it. So
well, it makes everything else more complicated to address.
Yes.
I mean, if we're talking about anxiety, we're talking about depression, we're talking about self-sabotage, ADHD symptoms, the drugs are not helping focus in on any of those other areas to address them.
And at the end of the letter, the writer also said, I struggle with depression and anxiety, right? And so and it's getting harder to resist temptation, which sounds like, again, this comes back to things where I'm not doing what's best for myself.
So even if you don't have a drug or alcohol problem per se,
right.
If you don't meet criteria for addiction, that doesn't mean that it's not causing problems.
Right. Especially if you have chronic depression and anxiety,
right. Yeah.
And then you don't feel like you have, sort of your wits about you on the rest of these things. Again, I'm not saying that they're all directly connected with straight lines, but yeah, you mentioned it. And so I don't want to just walk past it because that to me jumps off the page. This bigger picture of how do you arrest self-sabotage behaviors? I do like that you're using dialectical behavioral therapy. I like the idea of learning to sort of delay your response and sort of allowing yourself to feel uncomfortable rather than reacting to it. I think that's great for impulsivity. But as Nick said, sometimes we just lack those fundamental sort of organizing impulses. And sometimes with ADHD, that's the case. I mean, we're not diagnosing you here, but I guess I would just come back to this idea of, what does micro self-care look like? How can we sit down and say, these are some very small baby steps that I can be doing every day, that if I do this, it's a win. If I make my bed, that's a win. If I wash my hair, that's a win. If I brush my teeth, that's a win. Setting these more ambitious goals are helpful, like exercising and, getting things done with chores. But I agree, I don't want you ruminating, because you mentioned that was a problem too, on the things you haven't done. I want you fixating and celebrating the things that you have. I want to take a solution-focused mindset. That's probably going to incrementally increase what you're capable of and what you're accomplishing. So I think that's kind of the vibe I'm getting from your therapist, because it sounds like your therapist is pushing you toward the positive, not so much to fixate on the negative. And that's sort of that harm reduction approach. Believe it or not, that's not a cop-out. Therapists are usually trying to work with what you've got rather than noticing what isn't there. They want to build a bridge from what exists. So I think that you're on the right track. But if you haven't discussed the drug stuff with your therapist in a really direct, obvious, quantifiable way, my big piece of advice is please make sure you do, because self-sabotage stuff often involves that. And if we're self-medicating, we're not dealing with the depression, we're not dealing with the anxiety, and we want to make sure we're getting good medicine. That's one of the things we always tell people if they're drinking or using recreational drugs alongside mental health stuff. We tell them, look, you're already medicating. Let's just get you good medicine, right? Let's get you to a doctor that can prescribe the right things that actually help with these. Maybe that will help. So expand your team. That could be a good idea.
Yep.
And get honest about that stuff. Guys, we're at the end of the show. We did it. We just had the land speed record for
That was a
PodTherapy.
sprint.
Yeah, we got through it. We want to thank all of you who support the show at patreon.com/therapy. We do want to point out that this episode was taped in advance, and so we taped this on July 12th. If you have come to support the show at any level since then, please go to our Twitter, where we probably thanked you that same day as soon as we could. And of course, you're welcome to the Discord, and we've probably greeted you there and celebrated you joining the pack. But at the same time, you're not going to be mentioned in this show because it's in the past and we don't know. If you're listening to this show and you're like, golly, that was short. Yeah, our show is usually about an hour. We did an extra long Patreon because we had a very deep discussion of theology and religion. And I think it's an example again of humans who like each other having hard conversations about emotional, thorny things and finding a way to push through the discomfort to find common humanity and get to a good place with it. It doesn't mean we all high-fived and said, boy, we all agree everything's right. We don't take umbrage with anything that was said. But you can leave the studio being friends and colleagues and still be fine. And I think that we managed to do that. So I think that's rare.
As a representative of the fundamentalists, I disagree.
Well, you are the authority on the topic, as has been established. Patreon.com/therapy if you feel like indulging in 2-hour cringe
I can't
fest.
wait for the
cringy.
Discord on
It's just
this.
going to be 2 hours of cringe. Like,
Oh,
people
no.
are just going to need so much therapy after that.
You're going to
So
need to spend a week away from Discord.
I'm going to just stay away from the Discord. I know the whole thing is going to be like, well, all right, let's start with first thing Jim said that was terrible.
My
It's gonna
biggest
piece me
hope is I
apart.
hope everybody listens to the whole thing before commenting on Discord.
How about this?
But they
That
won't.
should be a rule.
I was about to say, that is a rule for that. I'm making a fucking rule.
If you have
You listen to the
commented-
whole damn thing and comment on it, or don't comment on it.
That's right.
If
Cost
you,
of entry.
and if you don't follow this rule, Jacob will not ever again go on Discord.
Yeah, that's right.
If you-
Also, he will not be enforcing
the
this rule.
penalty of you not following my rule is exactly nothing.
Yes. Okay. So we also want to thank our bosses, the mysterious and shrouded Illuminati members of the fan club that they're producers. Thank you, Smitty Scoop, Jake Schneider, Robert Brownie Jr. Mint, Kayla Lansbury, Judy Schneider, Nathan's Hot Dog Scoop, King of Student Loan Debt, Dr. Ben Don, Crazy Banana Scoop, Mason Miller, Carolyn Albert, Leon Kassab, Kevin Chamberlain, Malia, Richard Macy, Cindy Ash, Newstick, Lord Colin Stewart, Dirty B, Ben Stanley, Sammy Scoop, Sarah Smith, Adam Hathaway, Byler T, University Jeff, Tess Miller, Take It Evie Podcast, Paris, Myra, Lib, and Darren Cunningham.
If you'd like to hear this episode uncut and unedited,
Boy,
I
I don't
don't.
recommend it. Just don't. Next week.
and enjoy our spontaneous side projects, go to patreon.com/therapy, and thank you for supporting mental health.
That's all the time that we've got for this week's session. We want to thank our landlords, Matt Mattingly's Ice Cream Social Podcast, and specifically Jacob, for still being my friend. Thanks to those of you who contributed to the show today. We really appreciate it. Remember, pod therapy isn't something you should keep all to yourself. Share the episode with someone who needs it by opening the episode's description in your podcast app and copying and pasting the link that I used to provide in your social media. I need to update the script. I stopped doing that. Don't forget, you can find us at facebook.com/podtherapy, on Twitter at PodTherapyGuys, on Instagram at PodTherapyGuys, and at patreon.com/therapy.
Do you want to submit a question to the show? Ask anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. I'm Nick Tangeman.
I'm Jim.
Thanks, and we'll see you for your appointment next week. Good night, Jacob.
All right.
He's earned it. Bye.